Michael Bisping, welcome
Yes.
to beautiful Montreal.
Thank you. It's nice to be here again. Last time I was here was 2008. The city holds a lot of great memories for me. So yeah, it's good to be back.
Let's expand on that. 2008, it was 7 years ago, 3 days ago.
Yes, that's right.
fight.
Almost to the week.
Yes, UFC 83, Charles
Yep.
McCarthy. And I was thinking about this fight a lot. And a lot of similarities between your fight on Saturday and that fight.
Sure, I can see where you're going with this. Well, yeah, I mean, to be honest, that fight back then was my first fight dropping down to middleweight. And of course, it was actually my first fight that wasn't a co-main event or a main event. And it was a fight that, of course, I think I was expected to win, but against an opponent that had some stylistic matchups that perhaps maybe could have caused me some problems. I went out there, I had a good performance, he got me down. Ironically, at the weigh-in, Charles McCarthy said that he was going to break my arm. And then I think I broke his arm because I kneed him about 20 or 30 times consecutively. But yeah, so this fight with CB Dollaway, in some respects, is kind of similar. I've dropped down to mid-card again, which I'm very fine with. It actually takes some of the pressure off. And this fight is about, last time I was dropping down to middleweight and re-establishing myself in a new weight class. This time I want to reassert and remind everybody that I'm very capable of being a contender and fighting for the belt, and that's what this fight's about for me on Saturday night.
Perhaps most common between this fight and that fight is that going into UFC 83, you were coming off your first professional loss.
Correct.
And
Yes.
of course, going into this fight, you're coming off a loss to Luke Rockhold, and there was a lot of hoopla surrounding that.
Let's not forget that first professional loss was a controversial split decision to Rashad Evans that some people thought I won.
You still believe you won that
No,
fight?
I don't.
Okay.
No, I don't. I think Rashad won the fight. I think it was super close, and he got a takedown right at the end of round 3. And I think, to be honest, that stole the fight. But you were saying,
but that was your first official loss
Yes.
in the UFC. So now now we want to see how you're going to respond. Your back is somewhat against the wall.
Sure.
And I feel like some could make the case that your back is against the wall here in this fight because the division ever evolving.
Yes.
We've seen new contenders emerge. As recently as this Saturday. Do you feel like that's the case? Like, you can't lose 2 in a row and still be relevant in this division?
Well, I think you can still be relevant. People have lost 2 in a row, but I certainly don't plan on losing 2 in a row. It's certainly a backward step, but losing 1 is a bad step. Losing 2 is terrible. So yeah, let's not get that confused. But win or lose, I will still be relevant, but I am not going to lose. Regarding the Luke Rockhold fight you brought up, going into that fight, I was very confident. I thought I'd win. We did clash heads, and this is an excuse. We clash heads. The eyelid split wide open. A lot of blood was pouring into my eyes. My vision was severely impaired, and as the fight progressed, the bleeding got worse and worse, and I couldn't really see. And every time I blinked, all I could see was a red smear. And I was white. If you watch the fight, you see me doing this a lot, trying to wipe blood out of my eye. And he as I was doing that, he caught me with a head kick. It was a great kick, and then after that, I was on the floor, and I had no idea how I got there because I didn't see the kick coming. And he locked up a guillotine, and good for him. Well done. But there's certainly mitigating circumstances. It sounds like an excuse, but it's not. So I would love that rematch. I do take some solace in the fact that if you look at Saturday night and you see what he did to Machida, you see what he did to the 2 fights prior to me. The first round against Rockhold, I was doing very well. Of course, ultimately, I lost. But as I say, he headbutted me, and I was doing very well up until that point.
Well, the loss doesn't look as bad after you see what he did to Machida.
Sure, but a loss is still a loss.
Yes, I heard you say that you think he would beat Chris Weidman, which would be good for you because now you've lost to the champion.
Yeah, well, I think he will beat Chris Weidman. I think Chris Weidman, for all his bravado on stage the other night, I think you could certainly see a little bit of that creeping in. I'm going to beat CB Dollaway on Saturday night, and then hopefully I get a quick turnaround, and that will be successful. Then I'll start talking about title shots again. In the meantime, Rockhold will beat Weidman, as much as it pains me to say that, and then hopefully I get my rematch with Rockhold this time next year. You're looking at the new middleweight champion of the world. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, so I think that this fight was interesting because there wasn't a lot of trash talk. There wasn't a lot. I think people like a Michael Bisping fight when you're fired up, but then out of nowhere, it came out just a couple of weeks ago via your Instagram. You were upset because you felt like your character was being questioned by some. who claimed that you turned down a fight against Jacare. All of a sudden, the fired up Michael Bisping came about.
I mean, with this fight, listen, I don't go out. It's weird. I have this reputation of being a trash talker. I don't necessarily think I deserve that. Yes, I have talked my fair share of trash, for want of a better expression. It's a stupid expression, but if somebody says something to me, I will respond, you know. And yeah, sometimes I might say something, but that's not necessarily what I'm trying to achieve. In this fight, CB Dollaway hasn't really said anything. I respect the guy. He seems like a nice person, a loving father, a nice family man, you know. So nothing too much bad to say about the guy. The other day, he did say that he believes he's going to retire me, and that kind of irked me a little bit. That kind of pissed me off, and so I've got some choice words for him. And listen, never underestimate my ability to be a prick. So, you know, tomorrow at the media day, when we square up, things might escalate a little bit because, yeah, I do take offence at him saying he's going to retire me. You know, I retire people. He will not be retiring me, and he will be second guessing his career as a mixed martial artist. Machida ended it nice and fast, and I will do it painstakingly slow. I'm still going to finish the guy, but I'll take my time and make him eat his words.
This makes me feel like you need a little fire going into your fights.
Definitely.
So have you been lacking that going into this one?
Well,
the Kung Lee one, the Rockhold one, your most recent fights, it had a lot of it. I mean, people were really excited. The face-offs, there was a lot of tension going. There's no tension here. Does that bother you?
You know, the tension isn't necessarily week of the fight. That's not the tension that you need for me personally. It's on the night of the fight and walking into the arena and walking into the octagon. That's when you need the tension. And I've constantly struggled with this throughout my career. When I fought Elvis Sinasek in Manchester for the first time, I fought in Manchester. I walked out, and the crowd were ridiculous. It was so loud, and I was high on adrenaline, so I sprinted to the octagon as fast as possible, high on adrenaline, yada yada yada. Anyway, I didn't expect it. I acted like a moron. After that fight, I thought, wow, I've got to get a handle on this. So my next fight was against Matt Hamill, and I worked very hard on staying nice and calm and just, you know. And anyway, I went out there, the fight started. Sorry, I was in the octagon, I'm waving at my mom, waving at Dana, you know. Just nice and mellow, you know, mellow, take it easy. And then the guy comes at me, he's trying to rip my head off. He's going crazy. I was, got my arse kicked for a round, you know, finally woke up. So I've always been trying to find that fine balance. Right? And, you know, I was thinking in the Kung Lee fight, I went in there nice and calm and relaxed, and I had a great performance. So I tried to replicate that in the Rockhold fight. And to be honest, in that fight, I was far too calm at the start. So I think really I need to be fired up and aggressive and, you know, ready to go to war. Of course, you need a level of calmness to be able to function to the highest of your ability. But for me, I am an emotional person, and if I channel that emotion, I think I fight better.
And speaking of your Instagram, it feels like to me that you have almost taken it upon yourself to do whatever you can to sell this card, because you have heard the comments about, you know, the weakness of the card, and of course it got a bit of a jolt in the last 24 hours with Quinton Jackson, but a lot of people have complained that it's not strong enough. It's the week before the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight. They want to save their money. There are a lot of big UFC shows coming up. Does that bother you? Do you take that as an insult when people say this card isn't good enough? You're on the card. That should be enough, right?
Well, you know, it's, you know, I've got a few responses to that. Of course, I'm on the card, and that is a reason to buy it. Of course, you know, I've been around for a long time and I get compensated very well. I get compensated appropriately, and that's because, you know, people like to see me fight. I will say they haven't promoted my fight too much, so really if the pay-per-view doesn't do too well, I don't really see that being my fault. But I'm trying to do everything I can to, you know, to obviously help support this card, you know.
You take it personally when people say it's worth skipping?
Well, it's not worth skipping. You know, Demetrius Johnson is a great fighter. I'm going to provide an excellent performance, and I'm sure all the undercard will. But if I'm attached to a fight card, I want it to do well. You know, I want the numbers to be well because it represents my brand as a fighter. And if the numbers don't do well, then ultimately I'm not doing well. You know, I'm not talking about my cut as a pay-per-view. I don't get that. You know, I get compensated a flat rate. But I want the UFC that when they look at their products that I was attached to, of course, I want them to look at that and say, right, when we attach Michael Bisping to a card, it does well. So, yes, I'm motivated to promote this as much as possible.
I remember at UFC 152, you made some comments about the flyweights.
Yes.
And now here you are under the flyweights, right?
I stand by them.
Yeah, okay. So were you like, gosh, what am I going to do here?
Well, these little bastards, they move so fast, you know what I mean? And
yeah, but are they draws?
Not
do
really
people want to
pack
pay
a punch, but Demetrius, you know, to be fair, is proven.
Well, you just sat on the plane with him, so maybe he's...
Yeah, no, he's proven to be a worthy champion, and he really is. And, you know, Demetrius is a great guy for one, but hell of a fighter, you know, and if anybody can't admire his skill, then, you know, they're a fool.
You know the art of promotion. Does he do enough to promote his fights? And then on the flip side, when he has these faceless contenders who do nothing to promote the fights, I mean, literally almost nothing, it's a recipe for a tough sell, right?
Sure. You know, we had a luncheon with some journalists the other day in LA, and Demetrius was there, and we got talking about this actually, and then, you know, I was, you know, you could say brash.
Sure.
I'm going to beat Holloway, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You deserve to be.
I thought brash about the art of promotion.
Sure,
because you are a master at that.
And Demetrius, you know, wouldn't even go as far as to say, you know, I'm definitely going to win this fight. And we had an open discussion about this before, you know, in front of the journalists. And he said, well, no, I don't want to put myself in that position, you know, because if I go out there and I lose, then it doesn't look too good. I feel foolish. And I said, yeah, but hold on. As a fighter, I'm willing to take that bet. I'm willing to say, I'm willing to put it on the line. And if I don't pull it off, then yeah, I'll look like a fool, you know. But so what? I'm confident. I believe I'm going to win this fight. And I'm willing to go out there and put my name to it and risk a bit of humiliation. That's how confident I am. And I said, you need to be more confident in that, Demetrius. You're a massively dominant champion. You need to put it out there and say, listen, I'm here. I'm Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. I'm going to win this fight. And please tune in and watch.
And he doesn't do it.
He said he didn't want to do it.
Does that make
not that he doesn't want to promote the fight. That's just not his style.
But in this, look, if you're a boring personality in baseball,
he's not boring. He's far from boring.
Absolutely, there's no bigger fan right here. But if you're a boring personality as a basketball player, baseball player, no one really cares at the end of the day. As long as your team continues to win and you win a championship, no one cares. But in this sport and boxing, really the two only sports that fall into this category, you have to do a little work to sell yourself, right?
Yes.
That's part of the game as well. And no one has proven that better than Conor McGregor as of late,
yep.
And you have proven that over the years. So do you sit back and scratch your head when you see some fighters who say, look, I'm going to let my fighting do its talking, I'll let the UFC pick my opponents? At the end of the day, those guys aren't going to make as much money as you and others have made. Do you have a hard time understanding why people do that in your profession? When the blueprint is there.
Well, see, the thing is, you can't manufacture that. You either have it or you don't. And if you don't have that, and it's not real, it's not genuine, then it has the opposite effect. You look like a fool, you look like a wannabe, you look like you're trying too hard. If it's not within your nature, don't do that. And for those people, yes, of course, the fighter will do the talking. I mean, the perfect example is George St. Pierre. Look at George St. Pierre, you know, a constant gentleman, a true professional, and one of, if not the biggest pay-per-view draw that the company had. So you don't necessarily have to be that guy. Of course, if you do both, then yeah, great. But if you're not, then don't try and be. But to go back to what you said about the teams, the teams are different because, you know, they have so much history attached to them and people where they live and things like that. Obviously, fighting is an individual sport and it's based upon our fighting skills and our personalities, because that can either attract or detract. You know, it can attract people and put them off depending on how you like. But ultimately, they'll tune in, you know, if you're an interesting fighter.
I know you're managed by the same team, but Conor McGregor is the first megastar from Europe since you, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't refer to myself as a megastar. It was very kind of you to say.
You sold a lot of tickets.
I have sold many tickets.
You've headlined a lot of shows.
I've headlined many shows.
Give me your honest take on, because he's approaching he's approaching a point now where I think he was the working man, he was the everyman.
Sure.
He built up, but now he's kind of evolved into the suits, the money, the, you know, you will bow down to me. It's an evolution. You didn't quite go that route. What do you make of what he's doing now and how he's conducted himself throughout the tour and everything leading up to this fight? Are you in favor of it?
Listen, far be it from me to judge Conor. You know, I'm not about to do that, and good for him. What he's doing is working for him. You know, I've been successful, but that's not really my style. You know, obviously I'm proud of, you know. See, me and Conor got very similar backgrounds. You know, he's Irish, I'm English, but you know, similar, very, very working class, lower working class families, you know. So I can understand it, you know, because it's, with all due respect, it's kind of new to him and this and that, and it blows your mind, and it blew my mind, you know. And he's still a young guy, and he's got all this new stuff, you know. He's like a kid in a candy store, and God bless him, and good for him, and he should enjoy it. And you know, why shouldn't he be proud of it? You know, of course. So yeah, good for him.
That's it.
Good for him.
That felt like a PC answer if I ever saw one.
No, listen, it's not my style. It's not the way. I mean, we're very different people.
Sure.
I've got 3 children. I'm a family man. Listen, my God, and as I say that, I've done things that are terrible. You know,
what do you regret the most? What you've done in the public eye or said in the public eye? You ever look back at the early Michael and say, "Gosh"?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Are you embarrassed by it?
Some of the things I've done and
really?
said.
Like what?
Oh my God, I don't know. You know, I wish I could have been a little more humble, perhaps, back in the day. And you know, certainly, I look back and I see some things. See, and it all comes down to who you're surrounded by as well. You know, because human beings are influenced, you know, and, you know, if you're around a certain set of people, they encourage a certain type of behaviour, you know, and, you know, and then you get away from those people, and then you look back and you think perhaps some of those things that I said and did, some of those actions weren't appropriate, you know. And of course, a lot of that comes down to being young and brash and full of my own shit, you know. So yeah, I mean, like for example, after the Matt Hamill fight, you know, I acted like an absolute idiot, you know, and I look back and I think, oh, we could have done without that one, you know. The Jorge Rivera fight isn't necessarily one of those, you know. He fired me up, and I feel I was well within my rights. So you know, I stand by that one. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I look back on interviews and I think, oh God, turn it off, please.
Really?
I can't. Yeah,
wow.
Please turn this off. Am I really saying this stuff? You know, but everybody's like that.
Are you the kind of person who believes in karma? And if so, do you feel like because of some of the things that you did as a youngster in this sport resulted in you not fulfilling your dreams, not getting the title shot, things like that? You ever think about that?
Traditionally, I'm not the type of person that believes in karma, you know, or anything like that. I'm not deeply spiritual or anything like that at all. I truly believe that we just exist here and now, and that's the way it is. But just recently, some things are starting to happen where I've found myself saying, wow, maybe everything does happen for a reason. You know,
like what?
Well, I'd rather not go into that, unfortunately. But a couple of things I'm like, shit. Just a couple of things.
Or bad things?
A bit of both.
Really?
Yeah, a bit of both. All linked to the same thing. I was like, wow, it's pretty heavy. You know, when I weighed it up.
Tease.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I can tell you off air.
Fair enough. I'm sure the viewers love that.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, sorry guys. So yeah, I don't know. So what was your question?
Do you believe that maybe because you acted, you know, a bit too brash and cocky, that it didn't result in certain things for your career?
No,
because
not at all.
We could say right now, you might be the most popular fighter in the history of the sport, not to not win a belt, to not fight for a belt.
Sure. Not at all. The reason I haven't fought for a belt is no one else's fault, apart from mine, or perhaps the athletic commissions for allowing the use of testosterone replacement therapy. I'll just get that one in.
Yeah.
The UFC have put me in #1 contender matchups 3 times. I lost those fights. You know, what can I say? Yes, they were too. Chael Sonnen, check. Vitor Belfort, check. And Dan Henderson, check. All on testosterone replacement therapy and everything else that we that we don't know about. I lost those fights though. You know, that's what's on the record book. So what can you do?
Do you think there'll be a day when you're 60 or 70 if you don't, let's say, for whatever reason you don't get that title shot? Do you think that will eat at you? Do you think you'll be an old man and say, I wanted that opportunity on that Saturday?
I'll be very angry because I know what I'm capable of. I know what I can achieve. I know, you know, rightly or wrongly, you know, I've always been a fighter. Ever since I was a kid, I've been fighting since I was a tiny little kid. Always getting into scraps. Always in trouble at school. I was just one of those kids, unfortunately. Not that I am now. I don't fight at all. I'm not an aggressive person, but when I was younger, it was something that I prided myself on. I did a lot of martial arts, and I was just always that, kind of like a tough kid. And the kids I was fighting were always older. I'd be like 12, they'd be 15, 16. And so I know what I'm capable of, and I've done martial arts my whole life, and I'm here, and I've come this far, and I never thought that just this scrappy kid from Clitheroe would ever achieve this, and I'd be sitting in Montreal or the places that I've travelled to around the world, and I know if I got that far, then I can reach that ultimate. I've been at the top of the pyramid. I've been on the final peak of Mount Everest, for the last few years. What do they call it? You start at base camp at that last part. I'm almost there, and I've been hanging around up there where a lot of people would die, because of oxygen starvation. But I've been clinging on and staying up there for a long time. And yeah, if I don't get there, then, my career will have still been validated because I got into this to provide for my family for professional reasons. But for personal reasons, it will have been not quite what I was looking for.
Is that what keeps you going solely? I mean, is that the only thing?
100%. I mean, of course, the compensation is great, but I was with Jason Perillo in the gym the other day, and he's very close with BJ Penn, obviously, coached him for a long time, and he said, I was talking to BJ last night on the phone. I said, oh yeah? He said, BJ said it's crazy. It's crazy, bruh. The Bisping's in the gym, man. Or however they talk. I don't think he's Indian.
Close enough.
Yeah, it's crazy, bruh. He's in the gym and he's still training every day. He's the same age as me, and he's training with these kids and he's fighting world-class competition still at his age. And Perillo said that BJ was saying it's crazy. What motivates him? How does he still get that motivation? And I turned around to Perillo. I said, that's very easy. I said, BJ Penn's a 2-time different weight class world champion. I haven't had that, I haven't achieved that, and until I have achieved that, then I will still keep applying myself, and I will still keep training like a hungry, motivated man, because I do. I train very, very hard. Of course, it's harder to get those wheels turning because I am older and things like that, but once everything's fully lubricated, and we are still talking about fighting, then I can pound really hard.
Okay. But
oh god,
are you ever afraid? Because it feels like after the Rockhold fight, there were some whispers that Michael's too old, his time has passed. Are you afraid that every fight now is almost a referendum on your career, and that the talk will increase if you don't look? Because it was funny,
sure.
After the Kung fight, they were like, "This is the best Michael Bisping ever," yeah. And then after the Kennedy fight, we were wondering if that was it. After the Kung, and then after Rockhold, so it's like every time now we're deciding, do you still have anything left in you?
Sure.
And are you afraid of that? Starting to seep in, and that will become reality.
Sure, yeah, of course. I mean, that is not, the public perception that I want. Do
you hear it a lot?
Well, it's reporters. That's not the first time I've heard it. Let's just say that from reporters. I think it was Steve Caulfield, who's always a bit prickly when he interviews.
Sure.
Prior to the Rockhold fight, he said, is this it? Is this now or never for Michael Bisping? I said, no, it's not now or never. Of course I want to win this fight. I said, but if I lose, that's not it. I'm not going to throw the towel in. I'm not going to say I can't compete anymore. And I'm not flogging a dead horse for purely financial reasons. I'm not a moron. I've got many other things that I can do in this world. But I know I'm capable of regrouping and getting back up there.
Do you ever think about those fights? It kind of gets to an awkward spot where a guy looks really bad, who was once great.
Sure.
You can think of him, and starts getting knocked out in 30 seconds, and everyone's like, please, just retire.
Well, this is the thing, and this is why I...
And I'm not saying that's you, but are you conscious of that?
No, I am very conscious of that. You could say recently Josh Koscheck, with all due respect, and I've got nothing against Josh, and I don't mean that to be disrespectful, but you could say, there's an example of what you're saying. But I know, and everyone around me knows, that I'm training with world-class guys, and I'm beating world-class guys, and I'm still learning, still progressing, and I believe you'll see that on Saturday. If I'm not doing that, if I'm not still progressing, and I am getting my ass kicked in training, and I'm not still hungry and motivated, then I know it's time to end.
Do you think it'll be easy to walk away?
No.
Because in the fight game, it's impossible, right?
Not at all, because it's in my DNA. It's in my build-up. It always has been. You know, it is who I am. It defines me as a person. So no, it won't be easy, and I'll probably lie to you and tell you the same thing in 10 years' time. You know that I ain't finished yet as a hobbling with a walking stick. You know,
will it have to come from your wife or your kids? Like, who's gonna get you to stop fighting?
I'll know.
You'll know?
I'll know, but saying that, I'll probably want to come out of retirement a minute later. You
so you're going to be one of those lifers?
No.
You're not going to be GSP?
I don't want to, no. I see myself having 2 or 3 more years.
Yeah?
Yeah, 2 or 3, you know, but you know, that's I'm still a young man.
Sure.
Listen,
36, right?
I'm 36. I'm still, I'll take the Pepsi challenge of any one of these kids.
Yeah. And then when you look at your current place and you size yourself up with these current champions and contenders, you think you can hang with all of them?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you look at, I mean, again, it's the most recent one, so that's what I'm using as a cross-reference. If you look at my last fight, it was against Rockhold, but you look at Machida with the same opponent, you know, I certainly did a damn sight better than Machida. You know, Machida's classed as a great fighter. Prior to that, Kung Lee smashed him pretty good. Fight before that, Tim Kennedy, terrible performance, terrible night. I was coming back from a long layoff. Yada yada yada, list goes on. Fact is, I lost the fight. But you know, it's Dana White called me after the Rockhold fight. I was in Australia and Sprint, by the way, you need to sort your shit out because my phone doesn't work every time I'm out of the country, which pisses me off. But I'm uncontactable. I think we had this discussion once. You sent me a text and I never responded.
That's right.
Well, Dana sent me a couple of texts after the fight and then obviously never responded. And he gave me a call one day. I was just at dinner with the kids. And the phone went, so I went outside for peace and quiet. I said, "Hey, Dana." He said, "Oh," I said, "What's up?" Whenever Dana calls, I assume there's something important to discuss. And he said, "No, I'm just calling, see how you are." You know, and I'm like, "Oh, all right, cool." He said, "Yeah, I sent you a few text messages. You never responded." I went, "Oh shit." Anyway, we were having a chat, and he said, "Look, listen, Mike. You know, I know you've lost a couple of fights recently." He said, "But you know the reason why you've lost a couple of fights?" I said, "What?" He said, "Because you face the best guys constantly, one after the other. It's as simple as that." He said, "So don't feel bad, there's no shame in it." And you know, I took some solace out of that, but of course I want to be able to beat those guys and have a run, you know, of course. You know, it was somewhat comforting, but in other ways, you know, the fighter in me still doesn't accept that. You know, losses are unacceptable.
As we sit here right now and you look back, what was the moment that, you know, when you're 67 years old, you're going to tell your grandchildren about? Is there one moment that there was never, I mean, it was just the greatest moment of your life, when everything came together, you felt like you were on top of the world, you know, no one could beat you, it just felt like the culmination of all your hard work. Is there a moment that sticks out there? I could think of a couple from an outsider's perspective, but is there something...
Are you talking about fighting or are you talking about mentally?
Whatever you want to answer.
You know... I don't know. I'm always of the impression that the bubble's going to burst at some point. You know. And
you're a pessimist.
No, I'm not actually. I'm very much an optimist.
Okay.
I am an optimistic guy, but I'm also a realist.
Okay.
You know, and I'm like, you know, this is good. You know, but so I always. You know, I'm always like, okay, because I come from very humble backgrounds. You know, my parents were loving, but you know, it's a very working class family, and you know, and I'm earning amounts of money that I never thought I would ever earn.
You never even dreamed of this.
I never dreamed of it.
This was undreamable, this life.
No, do you know, and I can probably talk about it now.
Please.
My sensei from when I was 8 years old, you know, he always saw something in me, and then we drifted apart, and then when I was in my early 20s, I hunted him down. I said, you know, I want to start training again, and he taught me all about, I'd never even watched the UFC, and he taught me all about it, and this and that, and he said, "Here's what we're going to do, Michael." He said, "I want you to quit work, and I'm going to sponsor you, and I'm going to do this," and he said, "You're going to do this, you're going to earn this amount of money, you're going to be in movies, you're going to be blah, 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 blah." And I thought the guy was on crack. I thought, he's crazy. But I tell you, everything that he said has come true. And I thank that guy. His name is Paul Lloyd Davis. Unfortunately, he ended up suing me. And
suing you?
Yeah, he sued me. But you know, whatever. I have no hard feelings.
For what?
Well, we parted ways. He actually moved to New Zealand. Okay. He moved to New Zealand and wanted me to move with him. I didn't want to move to New Zealand, of course, and that was that. A few years later, I fought in Australia. Maybe I must have come up on his radar. And, you know, he said, I've got a contract with that guy, and he sued me. So we settled out of court. And anyway, whatever, no ill feelings. He did set me on that path, and for that I'm grateful. But because everything he said did come true.
Wow. What did he see in you?
Well, when I was younger...
He saw something that you didn't see in yourself.
No, he did it. He saw exactly what... Because I sought him out as well, you know. When I was younger, I won every single martial arts competition I ever entered, you know. I would turn up at tournaments, and people would come up to me, grown men, and congratulate me on winning the tournament before it even take place. And I used to, you know, behave yourself, but I knew that they were right, and I would win. I go in the under 12. I remember one day I went in the under 12s, under 14s, and the under 16s. Right, I won them all, and then the next year I went in the under 14s, the under 16s, and they said, "Well, put you in the men's as well, just for a bit more experience." I won the under 14s, the under 16s, got a silver medal in the men's. So you know that's what he saw. You know, so I was always very gifted at fighting. And then when I weren't making ends meet and we were skint, when we were broke, I thought, well, I know my fighting ability, I can monetize that in some way. So that's why I hunted him down.
Was the UFC around then?
It was, but it was. This was 2003.
Okay, so it wasn't the beast that it is today. So you didn't know if you can make a living doing this.
No, not at all. And I remember at the time reading on forums, anyone who's getting into mixed martial arts for the money is making the wrong move. And I knew very little about the sport back then. I used to do a form of mixed martial arts, but we didn't know it was mixed martial arts. But anyway, I was thinking, shit, you know. This is what everybody's saying on the internet here, babe.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if this is a good idea, but it paid off for me.
Does it bother you that guy who envisioned this for you is someone who's not a part of your life now?
Yeah, a little bit, you know, because I still respect that guy a lot, and he still, you know, I don't hold any grudges against the guy. It is what it is, you know, and he did set me off on this,
that'd be
on
something,
this journey. You know, actually, after he sued me recently, I reached out, I tracked him down, I found him on LinkedIn.
Wow.
Found him on LinkedIn, I sent a message to him. I said, you know, next time I'm in England, maybe we can meet up, and yada, yada, yada.
Did he respond?
He responded, and he was super weird. You know, you could just say it was all going to be, what do you want? What's in it for me? And this and that. And I thought, you know, I was disappointed. I thought I wanted to maybe meet up, water under the bridge, and who knows, maybe he could have been in my corner down the line. That's where my mind was. You know, after dealing with some scumbags throughout my career, you know, I realised that he was, you know, we've all got our ups and downs and our pluses and minuses, but for the most part, he's a decent guy.
More along the same lines, and if you don't want to talk about this, I understand, but does it bother you that you have no longer a relationship with Wolf's Lair? Because that was related
Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. I've been a martial artist since I was 8 years old, and that was, you know, I spent a very brief period of time there, really, in the grand scheme of things. And when I went in there, I was already champion of. I was KJ's champion. I was British kickboxing champion. I was, you know, I already knew what I was doing. Signed the contract, finished the contract, and moved on with my life.
You never answered my question about your favorite moment.
Oh, yeah. I didn't, you're right. What is my favourite moment? I don't know. I mean, it's been a long career. I've been in a lot of stuff in the UFC. Of course, one of my favourite moments is whenever I see my son come in the octagon and he does that armbar.
You spoke about this recently on Twitter, right? I saw you did.
Oh, right, yeah, well, that's certainly one of them. I don't know, there's been a lot. I mean, for me, it's every time, you know, it's every time I pay a check in the bank, you know, because, you know, I've got 3 beautiful children, and to be able to look after them, to be able to look after my mum and my dad, you know, I have a house that my mum lives in, she's able to live there rent-free, you know. Things like that, for me, just, you know, to be able to do things like that is outweighs everything.
Your dad will be here.
My dad will be here.
Not
He gets
your
in
mom.
here tonight. Not my mum, no. My mum and dad are together.
Okay.
But yeah, my dad will be here. My dad's been to every one, apart from one fight in Australia. Fought 3 times in Australia.
Yeah.
Other than that, he's been to every UFC event all over the world.
So it would feel weird if he wasn't here.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that he will be here. I mean, if he's not, then I understand.
Yeah.
You know, I understand that I'm a big boy and I can go into battle without my dad, you know, but it's nice if he's here, of course.
But there's that amazing picture, which I think is one of the greatest pictures in MMA history, of you on the cage celebrating, and I think it was taken by a fan.
That's right, it was. And actually the guy that took it, Tweeted me. Yeah, I was the guy that took that picture.
So
yeah.
you're on the cage celebrating. Your dad goes up on like the apron, whatever you want to call it, and is there celebrating, and he's pointing at you like, look at my boy, look what he just did. What a moment.
Well, actually, an artist called Geo Thompson, who does a lot of Geo knockout art, he calls it, but he's very talented. He's actually done it, and he's talented. That's my boy.
Is it? Oh, really?
Yeah, that's my boy.
Is that your favorite
that's
picture?
What it's called.
I mean, you can't beat that.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be. There's a couple, again, where I'm holding my son in the octagon.
Sure, that's nice.
They're pretty good. But yeah, that one's pretty cool as well, yeah.
And your mom, is there a reason why she doesn't want to come? Or?
No, well, my mum's disabled. So she her entire life, she was born, not even sure if I'm getting this right, but polio or some kind of thing. So she, many operations as a child, so she doesn't walk too well. And she don't get around too well. She's old. God bless her. God bless her.
You still have a relationship with her?
Oh, of course, yeah. But yeah. It's my mum. Of course I do.
Of course, yeah.
Of course I look after my mum.
They both live in England?
Both live in England in the same little small town, of course. They're not together anymore.
Do you think you'll ever go back? And do you ever get grief from your fans that you left them?
Yeah, I kind of feel like I certainly haven't abandoned England, far from it, but there's a big world out there, you know, and it's worth exploring, and I was given these opportunities, and with a work visa, I'd be a fool not to, right? You know what I mean, coming from a small town. So yeah, I went out there, and I would love to go back to England. I miss it dearly, but it's hard with 3 children. The 3 children now have assimilated to life in California, and they've got friends there now, and they're in school and this and that, and it just wouldn't be fair to do it to them again. So in some respects, we're trapped there. I would go back to London in a heartbeat. I'd move to London. I wouldn't go back to where I'm from. No offence to the people of Clitheroe, but those days are done. Those days are over. But London, every time I go to London, I love London. It's one of the greatest cities in the world, in my opinion. And I miss England. I miss the people, the sense of humour, and the character and the charm. But kind of trapped in some ways in California because of the children.
I will wrap this up. I thank you very much for the time. It's nice, I got to say, it's been quite a journey covering you over the years. Because you've always been one of my favorite to talk to, and when I heard you were going to be on this card, that was pretty cool because of the connection to UFC 83, and of course this being my hometown, and it's been a lot of fun watching, and I do sincerely, and I know we're not supposed to say this at times, but I hope you get that title shot.
No, well,
I really hope that you do.
So do I, and to kind of contradict what I said before, listen, that is what keeps me hungry. But I'm not bothered where the fight is, whether it's top of the card or bottom of the card. I enjoy this. It is me. It is every part of me. And if I wasn't doing this, I hate to say it, but I could possibly be in a lot of problems, because this has saved my life in many, many ways. And yes, I want to fight for the title, but even if I can just fight on the bloody undercard, and I can get out there and do my thing in the sport I love this sport. I love martial arts, and unfortunately, I love to fight. I've always loved to fight, and when I was a kid, if there was somebody that thought they could beat me in a fight, then we had to test it, and there's only one way to test that, and that's to fight, and I don't know, I love it. I truly enjoy it, not necessarily in a nasty way, but I enjoy it. I love the thrill of it. I feel alive. I love sparring. I love to spar. I spar all day, every day if I could. And
it's great to see that cocky Brit who came onto the scene, Tough 3. I see you tweeting pictures of your kids and how you like going for pancakes with them or whatever it is. You've turned into this father now, with the hair.
Well, I was a father then. Yeah, I've grown hair. When you say about embarrassing things, some of the embarrassing pictures, when you look back at 205, there was a bit of a belly and chest hair and a shaved head. I looked a little different. I was a little rough around the edges, but I'm still the same guy in there. Yeah, plenty of scars on the head. It's been. We've really seen you grow up. In front of the trash talking has gone down a little, less spitting on the ground and whatnot. I mean, you've really come a long way. Yeah. Well, you could say that. Yeah, it's been a hell of a journey. Well done. Thank you so much. And it's not over yet, my friend. It is not. It is not. This is not. This is your life. This is the beginning. I'm telling you. This time next year, we'll all be millionaires. All right. Looking forward to it. Good luck to you on Saturday. Cheers, guys.